All right, I'm talking now. You should probably be able to hear me. If you can't, please make a message in the chat. I guess that's not really going to work because if you can't hear me, say that. But I am saying things, and everyone else today has been able to hear me, so I'm assuming you can too. We are going to wait a few minutes to see if anybody else figures this out. I gotta, hold on. We're gonna get some feedback coming, and we do not want that. Oh, that's gone, that's gone. Don't want that. Thanks, Logan. Alright, first off, this is our first live stream, so there are going to be some bugs and kinks to work out. Currently there's only 4 people watching, so we are going to wait a bit to see if anyone logs in. I did mess it up the first time, so we'll see who responds. So I'll give it another minute or two to see who else is going to join us. Just be patient with us while we figure out this whole process and learn how to continue to teach you while social distancing. Yeah, we're in quarantine, so it should be pretty easy for some of you. But we are going to follow along with the PowerPoint that's also provided. And Charlie just asked about the Google Forms. You're more than welcome to have those up. You're more than welcome to ask questions about them. Again, we're trying different things today. So we have that posted. We're going to go over some notes today about comparing ratios, do some problems together. Then we have a discussion as well that's posted. So hopefully we can get some people talking in there and see how that works out. And there's a Google Forms attached that is your technical homework, but I guess you're already home, so you can start that whenever you really want. But that is just kind of going to be there so I can see who's actually doing things today, who is able to pay attention to things, see what's going on, that kind of stuff. So please feel free to ask questions in the chat as we go through this. Hopefully this is mostly going to be a review for a lot of you. It's just been a week since we looked at ratios and stuff. But if you are following along in the PowerPoint, I tried to put the text box on the screen with the problem. I don't know how well you can see that, and I haven't figured out the drawing program to make it have multiple lines. So just bear with me on that. But you can follow along with the problem in the Google slides that were posted as well. So with that, I guess we're going to start because class is starting. People hopefully catch on and see this as they go through it. Again, if you have questions, type in the chat and I will respond to it when I see it. So our first problem here, our goal today is to compare fractions, or sorry, compare ratios, which again, ratios are fractions. So just to remind you that a ratio is a comparison through division. So you do have ratios, right? A over B, two quantities that you're comparing through division. So here, our problem says Catherine wants to paint her room yellow. The mixture of yellow paint to white paint, mixture A, is 2 to 3. So mixture A has a ratio of 2 to 3. And knowing that, that means we have 2 parts yellow because yellow is mentioned first. And we have 3 parts white because white is mentioned second. The ratio of yellow paint to white paint in mixture B is 3 to 4. So that's 3 parts yellow, 4 parts white. put a W there and yellow. Can you make the problem bigger? What you can do, Eli, the problem with making it bigger is, here you can see my layer. Is this the text layer? Yeah, this is the one with the text layer. If I can get to it. I'm still playing with the program. Kelsey, you don't have to write it down. It's in the Google Slides that I shared with you as well. So Eli, if you want to look in there, you can find that problem written out a little better, but it is in Google Slides that's shared with the classroom. I believe it's in there. Yeah, the Google Slides comparing ratios, it's slide 3, if you want to find it there. I'm still working on the whole text thing. It's a fairly new program for me here. But mixture B does say that we have a 3 to 4 parts here. So the question is which mixture has the larger ratio of yellow paint? So I want the larger of these two ratios. So basically it's asking you, is 2/3 larger or smaller than 3/4? Can you make the words bigger? Again, Lily, if you follow along in Google Slides, the problem is right there in front of you. Just open it up in the window or something like that. But I am playing with the text boxes here. I don't know how to do it. Yeah, I'm not sure how to do it just yet, and I apologize for that. But if you look over in the Google Slides, I have it right here. You should be able to look in the Google Slides. I can see who's on there. So Logan's doing it, Kelsey's doing it, Gianna's in there. But if you look on here, you'll see the problem. But hopefully that's helpful. I'll play around with it and see if I can figure it out for later streams. But it wasn't quite working the way I wanted to. So again, it's asking us which of these two ratios is larger, and therefore which one has more yellow paint in it. If we have 2 parts yellow, 3 parts white versus 3 parts yellow, 4 parts white, which one is larger? There are many ways to figure this out. It's just asking you which fraction is larger. So you could just sit there and you can do common denominators of such. Right? 2/3 can be written with a common denominator of 12 in this case. 3/4 can be written with a common denominator of 12 in this case. And what do you do? 3 times 3 times 3 times 4 for that one times 4 for that one, and you're going to get 8 to 9, and then you see this one here is the larger ratio because 8 is larger than 9. So you know that 3/4 is larger than 2/3. There are other ways to do it. You can use your proportion setup and do your cross multiplying, which we will get into moving on to the next set of notes on the slide. So if you want to look at the next set, and I might be able to just drag my window over. But this here is what the next set looks like, and my face is going to be in the way of this one now. So there we go. So here we could just make a table as well to find equivalent ratios. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to look at a bunch of different ways to just start comparing ratios. So here, making table of equivalent ratios for the mixture, you can see that, I don't know if I can make, I can give the pointer, can't I? You can see that the 2/3 here, we can inflate by scaling. 2 times 2 would give you 4, 3 times 2 will give you 6. So if you double it, you'll get that. And if you double this, the 4/6, you'll get the 8/12. And then you'll realize they both have a common factor here, 12 and 12, and then you can compare it that way. So you can do this just by finding common denominators. And you can set up tables like this if you are want to organize your information a little more. But really, these fractions aren't important. This fraction's not important. This fraction's not important. The only ones that really matter are your original ones. So your 2/3 and your 3/4 and your second ones that actually have the common denominator of 12. So 9 and 8. So again, you could just find common denominators for things. And again, there you are. So mixture A is 2/3 and 3/4. You can rewrite each one with a common denominator and then compare. And when we did that, you'll note comparing it with common denominators here. 2/4 became 8/12, 3/4 became 9/12, and so on. Other ways that you can do this, besides by making a table and all that, get rid of all this. Oh, that's another layer. And of course that deletes the text too. Basically I'll just rewrite the problem in my own words here until I figure out my sketchpad. So what we got is we got, the 2/3 versus the 3/4. And you want to know which one's bigger. And obviously in your head you could probably figure that out too. I mean, 2/3 is, there's your pizza. You want 2 of them versus 3/4. And you want 3 of them. So obviously this one here is going to be the larger one. But let's look at it ratio-wise. So again, you can have, the methods will be what we answer for the question discussion, right? Yes, this is the discussion question. So you could like finding common denominators. We could come over here and we could be like, find common denominators. Right, there's method 1. Hey, that's easy. Method 2, you could make a table. Who knows? Let's make a table for it. And I showed you that in the slideshow. Maybe you like making a table. We have 2/3. We can scale that up. Make that like double each of them or something. Multiply this by 2, you get 4. Multiply that by 2, you get 6. Multiply this by 3, you get 6. Multiply this by 3, you get 9. Multiply this by 4, you get 8. Multiply this by 4, you get 12. And that was table 1 from your notes. And then the table 2 would be, hey, we can do 3/4 the same way. Multiply each by 1, you get the same thing. Multiply each by 2, you get 6/8. Multiply each of these by 3, you get 9/12. And then you stop there because, hey, we have a common denominator. And we know 9 is bigger than 8. So we go with 3/4 is bigger. The third way that you can do this, and which is probably newer to you, is by proportional reasoning. Proportional reasoning. So proportional reasoning is probably going to be the easiest way eventually. Just because you can do it with multiple fractions and you can do it with ugly numbers and you don't have to sit there and find common denominators of things and stuff like that. But for proportional reasoning, we set up proportions. And if you recall, proportions are comparisons of two fractions that are equal to each other. So I'll just give those numbers. Right? They're two fractions that are equal to each other. My head is in the way. That's right, I moved my head. Let's take you back there. Sorry about that. I have like 20 screens going on my computer right now. There you go. So these are your three ways: finding common denominators, making a table, proportional reasoning. So let's look at proportional reasoning. We're going to set up things like a proportion. And again, our problem is 2/3 compared to 3/4. Now we know they're not actually equal. We know they are not actually equal. But when using proportional reasoning, we are going to assume that they are. And when we do so, they form what's called a proportion. So if we assume they are equal, we know they are not. We are just assuming they are, so we have a little tool for us to use. If they are equal, then their cross products should be equal. So here you're going to be doing cross products. Right? So their cross products should be equal. If this is true, so if this is true, which it's not, our cross products will be equal. So 3 times 3 should be equal to 2 times 4. But it's not. We know that's not true. 3 times 3 is 9. 9 does not equal 2 times 4, which is 8. Now those 9 and 8 you should be thinking familiar because those were the fractions that we did with common denominators, right? 2/3 was equal to 8/12, while 3/4 was equal to 9/12. So these numbers here are coming from here. Now the trick to this is to remember which numerator goes with which problem. Like, how do I know 9 went with 3/4? And I know that because 9 goes with the numerator. So here my numerator is 3 from that 3. Here my numerator is 2 from that 2. So here 3 times 3 is 9, so I know this fraction is getting a 9 by it. And here 2 times 4 is 8, my numerator is 2, so I know the 8 is going with this fraction here. And therefore I know that 9 is greater than 8, and therefore 2/3 is less than 3/4. And if you go back to our original problem, that means our 3/4 or 3 parts yellow to 4 parts white paint is the brighter of the yellows. That's all it goes into with the actual problem there. So those are your 3 different ways of doing this. Not too difficult, especially because you probably know how to do it this way. You probably can figure that out. Proportional reasoning might be a little different for you, but it is a way of doing it. You just assume that they're equal and do their cross products. And again, it's outlined in the slideshow that I posted. With that, I did set up a Google Forms for us to do. And I'd like to do it together if we can, just so I can see who's all actually following along and things like that. Where does the 9 and 3/4 does not equal 9/12 come from? The 9 and 3/4 does equal 9/12. I'm saying that 2/3 doesn't equal 3/4. I'm assuming they're equal so I can do cross products. Basically, you're going to do cross products of them. I just need you to know that they need to be equal in order for cross products to be equal. Here they're not, so it's not really a proportion. It's just we're assuming if it is, it would have this property, and then we're making a judgment based off the fact that it doesn't work. We will do a couple more. I'd like to do the Google Forms with you. So as you go through, fill in the Google Forms and we'll see how it works. I think it should grade it as you do it because I made it multiple choice. But we'll spend some time doing a few of the problems together and seeing what all we can fill in and see if the Google Forms is working and all that. Where does the 9 come from? This 9 came from the fact that I did 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, and here I get 2 times 4, which gives you the 8. Over here, your 9s are coming from the fact that I'm making equivalent fractions. Times 3 times 3 times 4 times 4. Does that help you out, Eli? Let's go in depth with another problem. Let's give you another one to work with. And we'll do it all 3 ways. So, do more examples here. I guess I'll leave those up. Let's see, so in the Google Forms, you have problems. I didn't delete everything. In the Google Forms, your first problem is the ratio of 4/3 and 3/6. Now it's written as the colon thing, but I'm going to make it the fractions anyways. And right away you can sit here and you can reason through this. You know 4/3 is an improper fraction and 3/6 is equal to 1/2. So you know this one here is the larger one just by looking at it. That's not a difficult problem. But let's do it through finding common denominators here. So looking at them, our common denominator, our common factors are 3 and 6. So we can leave the 3/6 as a denominator of 6 there. So we can do 4/3 equals something with a denominator of 6, and that's going to be compared with 3/6, which we're not going to touch because it already has a denominator of 6. To get 6, you multiply this by 2, multiply that by 2, and you get 8/6. And we know that 8/6 is larger than 3/6. So again, 8/6 goes with 4/3, 3/6 goes with the 3/6. And you can do it that way. So that's finding common denominators. You could sit there and make tables, which again is pretty much the same thing. I mean, they're all really the same thing. That, and then you can double both of them. So you can multiply each by 2, and you can get 8/6. Then you can multiply each by 3, you can get 12/9, and so on. But really, you're just doing that until you find something with common denominators anyways. So we're comparing those two. And then 6/8, again, is going to be the larger compared to 3/6. So that's making a table if you want to go that way. Give myself more room. Our problem was 4/3 and 3/6. And the other way to look at it is to say that they are actually equal to each other and find their cross products. So 3 times 3 again gives you one side, and keeping in mind, I'll write it this way. Keeping in mind you use the numerator 3, so this is going to go with this fraction. And over here, 4 times 6, you use the numerator 4, so that goes with this fraction. 3 times 3 gives you 9, 4 times 6 gives you not 9, and you know that 24 is larger than 9, so then that's true, and then instead of this being equal, it also gets that sign. That way is done through the proportional reasoning and cross products. Again, if you have questions, please make sure you're asking. If you don't ask, I'm assuming we know it because I can't tell what everyone is doing. So we can continue down the forms and we can look at a little more difficult one. Are you doing a live stream for science? I am not going to live stream for science, but at the end of our math lesson today, I will ask if you have questions about science. Science should pretty much be done the same way you've been doing it. Big thing is that due date is the end of the week because I need grades in. And I believe I have everything on option C that I am grading on this 9 weeks, at least the assignments posted. The grades might not all be in because I'm waiting on some. And yeah, Eli, we're going to do some more. This one here, we have 2/5 compared to 4/15. And this one here probably isn't as clear. However, you probably could just sit there and reason through this one as well. But it's not obvious which one is bigger than the next. So we will do it with cross products. All what you do is pretend that they're equal, and you do, this one here has a numerator of 4. I'm going to multiply it by this one's denominator. So over here we're going to write 4 times 5. And over here we have 2 times 15. 4 times 5 gives you 20. 2 times 15 gives you 30. Well, 30 is larger than 20. So 2 times 15 is larger than 4 times 5. So 2/5 is larger than 4/15. That's all you really need to do for proportional reasoning. And again, that's going to the fact that we're assuming these two are equal and they make a proportion. And then we're using the idea that in proportions, cross products are equal. And if you're following along with the forms, I am just going through the problems in the Google form, so you can mark them off as we go. Oh, gotta delete that first. Oh, next one, 3/4 and you're going to stick the 2 times 15 with the 2/5 because it uses its numerator. Whichever one uses the numerator from the fraction, that's the one we want to stick the problem with. So if you watch this one here, we have 3/4 and 8/10. I'm going to multiply with this numerator. So 8 times 4. 8 times the 4 gives you the 8 times 4. 3 times the 10 will give you the 3 times 10. Logan, there's also a discussion question posted. Kelsey, the Google Forms will be a grade, yes, but it's going to be like a completion grade. Just kind of doing it. This is the first time you're seeing it. I skipped one. Yep, 5 to 6 and 8 to 9. I did skip one. I'll go back. So here you get the from color coding. Here you get the 30, and here you get 8 times 4. It's multiplication, not a decimal. Gives you 32. You know 32 is bigger. That's bigger. Therefore, 8/10 is also bigger. With that. So yeah, I did skip one like Lyra pointed out. So thanks, Lyra. A little confused with everything going on. You could not imagine how many windows I have open on my screen right now. So we can go back to the one I skipped. Which was 5/6 compared to 8/9. And again, you could probably sit there and reason through some of these just by looking at them. You know, you have 9 pieces, so each piece is smaller, and you're collecting all but one of them. So there's like one small piece left, versus you have 6 pieces, and you're collecting all but one of them, and that one piece is going to be larger than this one piece. So, you know, 8/9 is probably going to be the bigger one here, just by reasoning through things. But either way, you can do your cross products again. So I'll color code it again. We're going to do 6 times 8. Because we're using 8 as the numerator, it's going with this fraction here. And we're doing 5 times 9 because we're using 5 as the numerator. It's going here. And you know 5 times 9 gives you 45. And you know 8 times 6 gives you 48. And you know 48 is larger than 45. You know 8 times 6 is larger than 9 times 5. And therefore you know 8/9 is larger than that. Evie said her video is restricted, so she can't get on. You can tell Evie that she's probably using a Chromebook, and we're working on that solution if you do talk to her. I will be posting the video of this lesson afterwards. It is recording, so you will get a copy of it, and you could review it over and over again. I just got to work with Ms. Very right now. She's not the only one who's having issues with that. But yeah, some people, if they're using a Chromebook right now, it's not going to work because GoGuardian is restricting it. But we're figuring it out slowly. And yes, that is the discussion question, Logan. And I would like you to respond to 2 other people. And I'll give you till Friday to do your discussion to finish them all off. But I do have it scheduled so you have a different discussion question each day this week, and it will be unlocked as you go on. Any other questions right now? Okay, again, we'll do another easy one here because I put some on there just to see if you could reason through things and get your own methods. I mean, I guess I could add that to your methods as well. We could just say, hey, reason through it. Could be like method 4, just reason through it. Just because some of them. You can find the discussion question in the Google Classroom. You don't have to copy the notes unless you really want to. They all are spelled out in the slideshow. It just helps some people to do problems as you go with me, so that might be helpful. And yeah, Charlie, I'll definitely hit up the last one. Well, we can look at that one next. What is the last one? Last one is a weird fraction because we have a numerator with a decimal, and that's frowned upon for fractions. And we'll see what it's like. So again, not going to change much for solving this. I mean, again, if you want to find common denominators, you can. Common denominator would be 9, so you'd multiply this by 3, multiply this by 3. 1.5 times 3. Gives you 4.5, which is going to be larger than that, right? But we can do it proportional reasoning wise because that's probably what's new. So here you're going to be doing, again, I'll continue to color code it. Logan, don't worry about the rock lab. If I do assign it, I haven't figured out how to do that yet, so just ignore it for now. 3 times 2, which gives you 6. It goes with the numerator. 9 times 1.5, you might have to come over here and do. In that case, it might have been easier to do common denominators because it was making it easier to see right away. but that's bigger, and therefore we didn't actually write that one out. So the 1.5 over 3 is a larger fraction than the 2.9. Are there any other questions on the Google Forms as you look through it? Are there any more that you want me to do with you, show you how it's done? Is there a certain method that you want me to show or demonstrate again? Again, common denominators you probably have the most familiarity with. You're more than welcome to do that. Proportional reasoning is probably the most straightforward and systematic way. And then again, some of them you can sit there and reason through just by looking at it and being like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. So 2/9 is the answer. No. 1.3 over 5 is larger. See how the alligator eats the bigger number? Hopefully you got that, Charlie. Does it mean the colon or the fraction line? The colon can be a fraction line. If you remember your fractions or your ratios, right, you can write them three ways. You can write it as a to b, which is the same thing as a to b, which is the same thing as a over b. So for this one, you were given 1.5 colon 3 and 2 colon 9. So this here's a fraction bar, this here's a fraction bar. Just different ways to write them. Yeah, this would also be a fraction bar too. Okay, hopefully you're good, Charlie. But yeah, just different ways to write ratios, and all it is cross products, which hopefully you get familiar with here, because as we get further on, you're going to be using more and more cross products of things. So. Any other questions for things? Did I miss anybody's chat message here? Well, if we're done, then I got nothing else to show you. Make sure you finish the Google Forms. Yeah, I got that email there. I didn't get a chance to look into it anymore, so I'll give you some feedback on that once I figure it out too. But yeah, finish up the Google Forms, hit submit. It should correct it as you go, so you should see the right answer next to it. It is going to be graded on completion whether you just did it or not, because it is kind of the first time you're seeing this, but not really. And work on the discussion question. You should be able to respond to 2 other people's responses as well. Take your time to do the discussion question. There's going to be a new one posted each day in the hopes by Friday you've gone through all of them at least. I do know that you can't actually finish the discussion until other people have finished their discussion, and if you're some of the first people to post, then you're not going to be able to, you'll have to go back in and do it until other people actually post so you can respond to them. But with that, science is posted. Make sure you get your science done. Due date is going to be the end of the week. Do not worry about the rock lab because I don't know how to do it when you don't have groups and you're all at home without the stuff. The discussion question is also posted in the Google Classroom. Two things should have unlocked at 8 o'clock this morning. One was all the materials for this live stream in class itself, and the other one was the discussion question. But yeah, try to get science done by Friday. I am not going to put the projects and the test on this 9 weeks. It's just asking too much of me right now. So those will be on the next 9 weeks. Just keep that in mind. I would really like for science, I would really like to get you those quizzes done, your section assessments, and your key terms by Friday. That's really what I need done, those three things. If you want to do science, key terms, quizzes, section assessments. The discussion question will be for math. The discussion question you can find on Google Classroom. It is a completely different assignment on Google Classroom. It's let's see, this is what I see. Boom, there's your discussion question. So you're going to answer the discussion question below. If you want to look at it, view the question. Which method for comparing ratios do you prefer and why? For science, yes. Look on option C if your grade is actually option C. So if it says on option C that you have it done, then it is done. And you don't have to take it. I know some people are a bit behind on that. I can check yours right now, actually. Unless you know that you already took it, then you don't have to do it either. I'm pretty sure I have that test grade in though. Yeah, I'm good for you, Lyra. If you want to copy it to Google Docs, you can also take pictures of things and send them to me. If it is already typed up, you can just share it to me. But find a way to get it to me. The science test will be posted on the Google Classroom. Wherever my grades are for this, where is this Google Classroom? Here's my classrooms. So I do not have the Chapter 5 test posted yet on the Google Classroom, but it will look like the Chapter 4 test I posted here. So there is a mineral test. It'll come up like this. You'll sit there. You can actually answer each of the questions just by doing boom, boom, whatever you want. And come down to the bottom, click submit, and your answer will go in. If there is a short answer question on there or something, then it will be graded separately, but this one here, it's set up to grade automatically. Once you hit submit, you'll get your grade for it. Is it going to be open notes? I guess that's up to you, Lyra. I'm not going to be sitting here policing that because I can't. So, I guess, yeah, from now on out, things are going to be open note just because I can't sit here and tell you not to and enforce that. So, I guess it's up to you. If I were you, I'd be using my notes on everything. I don't think that's cheating at this point. That's just being resourceful, I guess. All right, if there are no further questions, again, this video will be edited and then thrown up for anyone who missed it to view. I know we're doing kind of weird things this week because no one's used to any of this, but hopefully you'll figure it out. What happened to my hand? Nothing happened to my hand. My hand is perfectly fine. It has a strange glove on it because I'm using a stylus. Yeah, Charlie, got it. Well, if you have any further questions, feel free to reach out on email. Find a way to get in touch with me. Email is probably the best way. But I'll be here all week. Good luck with the other classes. Miss Holden told you to remind her that you should be joining her Google Hangouts about right now. So I will let you guys go so you can start your English class. And with that, we're done.